All right, hola guys, ¿qué pasó? How's everyone doing? This is Hala Pablo. Thank you for tuning in. Skip all the formalities and let's get right into Bitcoin because that's why you clicked on this video, right? All right, we're going to continue to go off of these two charts. Okay, nothing has changed. The only thing that's changed is the time frames. Now, it used to be where I had this one on the macro and this one on the micro. One on the macro, one on the micro. Today we're going to look at both of them on the same equal time frame of 6 hours. Okay, so this is the distribution that we had back in 2021, and this is the distribution that that's currently playing out that we're in. We see that more or less the waves, the zigzags, and the flats of that comprise the distribution tops of these Wyckoff schematics are basically cookie cutter, almost cookie cutter to some certain degree of deviation here and there. Like for example, the UTs that we've talked about on these past videos, you could go back and watch. There are certain degrees of deviation to be found, which is to be expected. But overall, in a broad general sense, the waves repeat themselves, and we see this over and over again. This isn't only for Bitcoin. We see this in all tradable assets. This sort of construction, this sort of pattern that we see to varying degrees. These, namely these three drives where we have the buying climax, up thrust, and UT going up as a slant, and then on the bottoms we have the automatic rally, and this would be the sign of weakness in B, but still going up, and in this distinct configuration leading all the way up to the LPSYs, where it fails to go back into structure and then retraces from there. It forms this kind of three drive ending diagonal rising wedge kind of configuration. Well, we're seeing that in Bitcoin repeating itself, and that is what we're going off of to more or less in the current distribution pattern that we're seeing. Like we talked about in other videos, we're currently in an area where the price is broken structure. We've retraced from the UTAT in both of these charts. The 5, which would be the 5 wave, the 5 on the Elliott, would be the beginning of the A wave, going down the A corrective wave. These 5s in both cases marked the all-time high of this cycle. Back in 2021, it was like 60-something thousand, right? 65, 64,000. And then, of course, the one that we've just had, the 5 today, is 108,000. So, and then we've had the same kind of distribution from it, where we've come all the way back down and retraced. It fell straight down to mitigate the automatic rally point, or the 4 wave, the 4 corrective wave in the ending diagonal. To mitigate it, we see the same thing happened here back in 2021, and then we've gone back up and tried to re-enter the structure. In fact, 2021 was a double mitigation, whereas we've only we've had the double now too, as we can see. But in both cases also, the price has tried to go back in and enter the structure. It's gotten rejected off the macro trend. This is now the resistance line, which would be the bottom of this wedge, has formed a tight resistance, and we've gotten rejected off it, and we've fallen back down into the support zone of the automatic rally, or the 4 wave. Same thing. These both coincide. And so now I want to focus on the anchored VWAP before we get into how the altcoins play into all this, because I know altcoin season is a concern, as it should be. Where does altcoins come into all this play? Because there is a discrepancy with the times and all that. I understand. Now the PSY is the preliminary supply zone underneath here. This is where I anchored the volume weighted average price. I get the best readout on a macro from the PSY, because it takes the entire distribution into consideration when it's when it's weighing out the volume and trying to calculate the average. So by the time we get to the end of this schematic, as it were, we've got a cumulative average of all the volume being weighted since this preliminary supply point. And so in both of these, we see that the anchored VWAP serves as an ice barrier, which those that are familiar with Wyckoff know that the ice, there's a feature called the ice or the creek. It's the ice when the price action falls back down through it, as it were, and crosses the anchored VWAP and goes down through it. It's called falling through the ice, and that is a bearish signal. It's a sell signal, obviously, and we saw that happen here in 2021, and that conclusively marked the beginning of the macro sell-off, and was a sign that we were going down to mitigate the next liquidity void, which is to be found underneath the preliminary supply. Now, we haven't reached that point yet. Let's go to today's price action. We've fell through the ice here, but then you saw that we came back up and made another attempt at the macro trend resistance line. We had 2 rejections here, and now a third has made its way up, and now we are effectively underneath the ice, or underneath the VWAP here, kind of like we were here. And as you can see, we've just got a very bold predominating supply bar rejection off the anchored VWAP. So that is yet another bearish signal that we could be in for more downside action with Bitcoin, more sell-offs, and that would jibe with what we've been seeing so far with how these wave trajectories have been playing out. So should be no surprise. In fact, I was expecting this, and because of the volume spread analysis. I mean, look at this supply predominance in the vertical bar volume. We didn't see that as much here, but yeah, we had this. We also had supply predominance in the latter half of the distribution range in 2021, and of course these are on the same time frames, and we're seeing basically the same sort of readout in the volume on both. Now, let's get to alt season. Let's get to the concern of alt season. Now, these large white rectangles, this is according to the altcoin season index chart, which is this. These are the areas where altcoin had its predominance. Now, this is for 2021, and you see this 3-month period or window here where altcoins had its dominance from about May to June, to the end of June, the beginning of May to the end of June, about 3 months. And we see that would be here, this area here, where the altcoin index is above 75. That means altcoins are in a dominant position now in comparison to Bitcoin. So altcoins have their dominance here, and so we see them topping out here, and that would coincide with that area between the UT. If we go back to here to the UT, it happened in 2021 between the UT, and it lasted all the way through the LPSY when Bitcoin lost its dominance severely and fell macro until the reconsolidation bottom of this area, and it didn't actually end until halfway through this accumulation range where Bitcoin again started to gain its dominance in preparation of marking up, like we see here what happened, how it marked up again, and it formed another top, and it actually exceeded the all-time high. It made a new all-time high. That was here. That was this area here. Okay, so whenever the line is beneath the 25 area here, that's Bitcoin dominance. When it's above, it's altcoin. So we see in every case here, we see where the altcoins, once the altcoins have their dominance and then they begin to lose it, they go back down. It always alternates. Altcoin, Bitcoin, altcoin, Bitcoin. This one didn't quite come up to altcoin season, although Bitcoin had its dominance. And this would have been in 2018. It went back, and Bitcoin had another period of protracted dominance. And again, altcoin, it looked like the altcoins are going to make it, and they got cut short again, and Bitcoin had its dominance again. And then in 2019, the altcoins had a very, very brief season, and then it went back down underneath the line, came up again, and then Bitcoin had a protracted mega dominance period. And then again here in 2020 and then 2021, every time the altcoins breach the 75 line with their dominance, if you notice, for the most part, it goes back down, and Bitcoin has another period of dominance. We see it here, alternating, altcoin to Bitcoin, altcoin to Bitcoin. Very rarely do you see the altcoins in dominance here, going back under and then reconsolidating somewhere mid-channel and then going back up for another altcoin season without the next Bitcoin dominance. So it's basically staggered, right? We see it staggered here. Although with Bitcoin, and we see Bitcoin has a lot more dominance than the altcoin as far as time and grade, you know? So here's Bitcoin dominance. This one didn't quite make it. It kind of lingered here. Altcoins had a little bit of a hurrah, and then back down here, more weighing onto the side of Bitcoin. And so I say all that because here's the altcoin season that we just had. It lasted about a week. All right. So let's go to the chart now. And that's this period here. Okay. So this was for this basically altcoin season was a very truncated, very short season, albeit altcoins did have their dominance for about a week here, and then it was cut short. Why was it cut short? Well, everything was going right. It looked like we were going to have a real grand, I'm sure that this was planning on expanding outward like this. Instead, we just have a really, really narrow season, and I think that was because of the federal the FOMC, you know, the FOMC announcement on the 18th that they were lowering the federal rates to a quarter instead of by a quarter instead of a half, like everyone was expecting. And there was some negative news about the inflation rate not being at 2%. It was higher than that. It was 4.25 or 4.5 or something. And I think Powell said something to the effect that as long as we're up that high, then future Fed rate cuts were looking speculative at best, and that spooked investors. And what happens when investors get spooked is they begin there begins to be outflows of liquidity from all the risk assets. And Bitcoin, the crypto market above all, is one of the most major risk assets that there is. So we saw Bitcoin take a hit, and not only Bitcoin, but the liquidity came out of Bitcoin, and as well it came out of the alts. So everything tanked. And I don't know if we had that sort of event back in 2021, and that's why I believe altcoin season was able to go a bit longer, namely 3 months instead of a week. All we got was a week. So yeah, that's kind of a bummer. See, we see that here with the UT. It's almost around the same time as it started here. See, this kind of started around the same time. For this year, the altcoin season started between the secondary test and the UT, and in 2021 altcoin season began between the UT and the UTAD, and like I said, it lasted throughout the duration of all of this. And I remember this time very fondly. We made a ton of money on it, and I thought the same thing was going to happen this year, but it got cut short. It's just things happen, and they made the announcement, and what happened. So now what? So now the alts are down and Bitcoin's down, and Bitcoin looks like it's going down further. Are the alts going to go down with it? If so, for how long? And for that, we go to a Bitcoin dominance chart, which I've drawn out here on the left, and we can kind of look at it. I'm going to end this video real soon. Let me just show you this now. This is the Bitcoin dominance chart. And as long as Bitcoin is going up, and is bullish, the price action is bullish, that means Bitcoin has dominance. And so we see what happened here, how we kind of topped out at this buying climax, and we've come back down and formed what I would say would be the automatic rally, and then back up to this point, which would be the secondary test. And all of this looks as though it has created a range. It has stopped out here, which is put an abatement on the Bitcoin demand. And from here, I drew a simple zigzag, which is, those of you who know Elliott wave, zigzags are a 5, a 3, and a 5. Zigzags in the beginning of the range, for distribution and accumulation both, the zigzags look the same. The first low is a bit higher than the second. So we have this 5 going down, this 5 Elliott wave that I drew, which would constitute the A wave, and then the B coming back up, like a counter rally, back to the secondary test, and then if this plays out, theoretically it should be a 5 coming back down a little bit lower. Now, in this period here, if you go back to the altcoin dominance chart, at this A point, which occurred back in December, this is the altcoin season we just had in this period when Bitcoin was at this low, when it was bottoming out at the bottom of this 5 or this A wave on this zigzag. And then this was when the altcoins are flying a few weeks ago. And then it came back up. Remember, it had that counter rally to B, making the B wave on the macro correction. And now what this is looking like, if this zigzag plays out, is we're looking to go into the C wave now. Kind of like here, we're going into the C wave. And so if we drop down to the C wave and come down, back down to mitigate this, the automatic rally point or the trading range support, then we could very well see altcoins come back in to their dominance, because Bitcoin will be at its low here, will be bottoming out in this trading range that it seems to be starting. So Bitcoin seems to be losing its dominance. If it completes this zigzag and forms this would be the sign of weakness in B, if it comes all the way down, or the macro C correction, then we would definitely, it would be considered at a loss of dominance, and we can anticipate the altcoin rally coming back into season, and that would necessitate Bitcoin probably coming down, if it plays out like this, coming down to this area here into the mid to low 80s and reconsolidating. And then if this chart jives with the charts that we've just seen, then we can expect the altcoins to rally, all the altcoins that we've been waiting for. So that's what I'm looking at. That's what I think is going to happen. I don't know. These things, I don't have a crystal ball. And I put a lot of information in this video, so hopefully you could follow it. And if not, go watch it again. Let me know what you think. If you get anything out of these videos, subscribe, like, let me know what you think. And I wanted to thank everyone for subscribing, getting me over 1,000. I think I'm at 1,000 now, over 1,000 for the first time, and I didn't think it would be possible before the New Year's. But apparently, maybe the algorithm picked up my last Bitcoin price tracking video or whatever, and Zcash too. I know a lot of you like Zcash. We're going to be doing more of Zcash. It's my promise to you. Zcash, we're going to do Dogecoin. We're going to do the memes. We're going to do Shiba Inu. We're going to do Floki and Bonk. And I've got a lot of good stuff coming, and we just have to have strong hands and wait this stuff out, guys. What's going to happen is going to happen. We just need to be prepared whether it goes up or down, and that's why we track these price actions. That's why we pay attention to the Wyckoff. We pay attention. We measure out the volume price action metrics. We count out the configuration of the Elliott waves, and we do all these things because we want to be prepared. We want to follow. We want to track like sleuths, like cyber sleuths, digital currency sleuths. We want to track and see what smart money is doing, what the what the composite operators are doing, what they're buying, what they're selling, what they're accumulating, what they're distributing, and then we go ahead and we do the same with what we can do with our budget. So that's what my videos try to convey. And if that's your mentality and if that's your philosophy with trading, then we can do business together. Like, subscribe, and I'll keep you dated. I'll keep you updated with what I see. Check out our trading group and Discord if you want to take your chart reading skills up another level. By all means, I keep it extremely affordable. All right, guys, that's enough from me. I've gone on too long. I'm gonna go and look at some more charts. Take care. Be safe. Talk to you soon. God bless. Have a happy new year. Bye-bye.